Okay, stupid phone just decided to stop. This is part two, but I've met Muslims from, Indonesia, China, um, Singapore, and they're just like they're followers. They're not leaders. They're followers, and this is pretty much the same with our people. We've become nations of followers, and it's down to what we're allowed to think and what people accept that you're allowed to think. The future is a big place. It exists in space waiting to happen. And if you haven't got the compos mentos, in the southern states they call it the gumption. If you haven't got the gumption to fashion your own future, then you can guarantee that people will be waiting to fashion it for you. So that's it's worse than a dilemma. I don't know what it's called. Like the catch 22, the bear, the man trap that they catch bears with. That's what we're already in. Like metaphorically speaking, psychologically speaking, it's a farm of the mind. Your mind is being like a bonsai tree. You're not allowed to be the big oak tree. You're a little teeny bonsai tree that they can put on the windowsill. That's your life. They run the economies. Now, bear in mind, economies is what economists run. So, look back in time. When the plane was invented, the plane was a super luxurious thing. The train was super luxurious. The horse and carriage, the car, they were super luxurious, and there are super luxurious versions, yachts and all this stuff. But the thing is like the momentum of the generic has become commonplace, and that's what China's job is to maintain that momentum of the generic. The crafts and skills and arts and everything. The putting in of your soul into what you produce. That no, Marxism doesn't allow spirit. That's one of the points of dialectical and historical materialism. So, whereas the government will dictate how you robotically operate, that is your function, that is your role, that is the script that you're allowed to read from, and any straying outside of that, like any natural thought process, any gumption, logic, anything that's based on right feeling, gut instinct, these things that are inbuilt, that haven't come from upstairs, then it's no place for that in society. So apparently the law is now you can't sing in public. So there's no concerts per se. There's no support, encouragement, and promotion of wholesome, healthy living. But there is support and encouragement and promotion of not wholesome living. So there's the contrast. There's the direction of the thrust, the main thrust of the governments who are working for the people who want the world or have the world already as their toy. So, when an evil brat doesn't want to play with his toys anymore, he just kicks them into touch. And that's what we're basically in. He doesn't want to play with his toys anymore. He's got new toys in China. So everyone else gets kicked into touch. I hope Africa rises up and realises it's all Israel. I hope Europe realises it's all Israel. I think Europe is pretty right on. It's just we're powerless. Africa's powerless. The Americas are finding out that they're powerless. You know, South America is so huge. Yeah, just so few Jews can cause so much craziness. Fuck. What are they? The Medellin cartel, the Cali cartel. You know, the cocaine just keeps on coming. The heroin keeps on coming. The immigrants keep on coming. The refugees keep on coming. So, where are the efforts to make the refugees not come anymore? Not because they're not allowed to seek sanctuary, which is banned in churches now. Refuge, you know, they're not allowed to find refuge. Where is the political will to stop the wars that are going on, that are creating them over wherever they're from? There doesn't seem to be any political will. And, you know, if China is gunning up to be the world's superpower, like it is, then the scenario appears to be that they're not peacemakers like what the United States has tried to be, at least. You know, obviously it's not. Obviously it's been the bent version of what most of the soldiers would have wished for, you know, which is why you've got a lot of veterans who are not surplus to, what are they called, enemies of the state, like, you know, the persons of interest to the state, because they're not so much dangerous, but if they got together, you know what I mean, they tear the government apart, and then the government would be out of the job, and then America could be ran really well. And then if the same veterans in China done the same, and Russia and Europe and, you know, all over, you just drag them out by the hair, give them a good kicking in the street, lock them up for good, and then yeah, it's jolly times. You know, you start having like clean air, fresh water, nice food. None of this like starvation's gonna come, vaccines gonna come, this, that, and the other. None of that like wartime craziness, which suits the Jews right down to the ground. I've studied this because not a lot of people know that. When the Menshevik Revolution, which was the February Revolution of 1917, the first revolution of that year, preceded by the October Revolution of the Bolsheviks, the Mensheviks came to the area where I live, and, you know, it was full of Jews, like. So they've all moved to Manchester now, and they went to Ireland as well, and they've all moved to Manchester. Manchester's the biggest growing Jewish community in the world or something. London is it's not a growing community anymore. A lot of them are leaving, but Manchester is the largest growing Jewish community in the world. So they have roots in Romanov Russia, and, you know, a lot of them were the emigres, so they were like brought over because the British government, the likes of Lloyd George, stemming back to Benjamin Disraeli in 1846, I think it was, the time of the Irish famine. That's when Benjamin Disraeli was starting to get into office and take over. You know, he was a converso Jew. The whole laws were changed to accommodate for another Jew just around that time. Actually, I think I'm wrong there. I think Disraeli was a little bit later. It was Lionel de Rothschild who became the MP for the City of London. He had the law changed so that he didn't have to take the Christian oath, the oath to God that he wouldn't lie in government. So at the same time was the East India Company, like the London Company, which is now it became the Virginia Company, is now CIA, and Singapore is the Sassoon family. The Sassoon family are basically, they're called the Rothschilds of the East, but they married into the Rothschilds and they ran the opium, and they were also behind the opium wars when like the 10 powers, Russia, France, Germany, Britain, um, there was 10 powers, Portugal, Holland, there was 10 powers. They're called the 10 powers. You know, they went to war with the Chinese in three separate opium wars. I think it was 1830, 1864, 1901, when Queen Victoria died. And Queen Victoria, she was married to Prince Albert, who was a healthy German, strapping young lad. You know, I think he was 41, who died mysteriously, and then Benjamin Disraeli pops up from his father had come from the Ottoman Empire, which is where Lionel de Rothschild come from, which is where Boris Johnson comes from, who's also Jewish. So, you know, the British Empire is not so British as Jewish, in so much as that it's, you know, the captain on the ship was not captaining for the British interests. He was just waving the flag saying, I'm British, knowing full well that he wasn't. And if you watch Lucy Worsley's Britain's Biggest Fibs, it's free on YouTube. It's got some interesting bits about the East India Corporation, who became London Corporation, London Company, Virginia Company, and the Virginia Company became CIA, and also Singapore. Singapore was the British East India Company, and they were running the opium